and welcome to the Palettefull Packs YouTube channel. My name is Alice and today I have the October 2023 Palettefull Premier Pack here in front of me. So let's go ahead, open it up and see what's inside. Ooh, purple! Ooh, I see paints. Oh my gosh, these are the golden flat matte acrylics. I've been seeing these on social media. So it looks like we're going to get 3 of the golden flat matte acrylics. We're going to get cadmium primrose, ultramarine blue, and titanium white. So we have a nice little selection of paints here. These are matte acrylics, so they will dry obviously matte, and they are supposed to be really, really flat as well. So not necessarily the type of paints to hold brush strokes. So I'm interested and excited to see how these work and how they blend. Then we have some different surfaces in here. I'm seeing a pack of 3 Daler Rowney Simply canvases. These are nice because these are square. That's super cute, about 6 by 6 inches, 100% cotton, and they're triple primed and ready to use. We also have a tiny baby canvas in here. This is super cute. I think I'm going to use this for my swatches. Then we have 2 paintbrushes. We have a Robert Simmons Sapphire paintbrush, a 1/2 inch, a angled shader style. And then we also have a nice detail brush, a size 2 Princeton Heritage brush. So we've got something to lay on a lot of different color with, and then something for a little bit more detail. And finally, we have a really nice 3/4 inch Arts Alternative canvas. It's a nice classic stretched canvas primed with acid-free acrylic gesso. So this looks great. This is 8 by 10. So we do have a variety of different sizes that we can build up and work with. I also found a palette knife in here, as well as this really gorgeous pumpkin Halloween Van Gogh inspired sticker. Okay, so this is everything you're going to get in the October 2023 Palettefull Premier Pack. We have the 8 by 10 classic cotton stapled canvas. We have the 3 sets of canvas panel, and then the tiny little magnet canvas. We also have our palette knife and our sticker, as well as 3 colors of the So Flat Golden Matte Acrylics, and 2 paintbrushes, a detail brush by Princeton and a angled shader by Robert Simmons. I'm really excited. I've been wanting to try these paints for ages, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. Okay, so I'm going to start with this cute little mini canvas that's also a magnet on the back, which is really fun. I love these because then I can just add to my collection of fridge magnets, because I swear you never have enough fridge magnets. But for this guy, I wanted to basically use this as my swatch piece, but I was going to do a little abstract with them. So I started with the pure yellow, and oh my gosh, these paints are so pigmented and they are so smooth and creamy. They go on like butter. It is amazing. I was so excited to finally be able to try these, just because, as I mentioned, I have seen them all over social media and they are so beautiful, so pigmented. They're really, really high quality paints. You can tell just by using them. I added in a little bit of water to water this down and have a slightly higher concentration of yellow in one area, and then I went in with the pure blue pigment and then blended that into the wet, and you can see all of these cool watercolor effects that are starting to happen. I'm kind of letting things bleed around as I paint the edges, and this is a really fun way to do your swatches and to get used to the way that the paint flows and blends together. Also going in with some of that pure white to lighten up the blue and blend it into this kind of greeny gray color here that is spiraling up the side. And I'm really starting to have fun now and warm up, just kind of playing around with these base colors, and then we'll let it dry and go in with some more detail for the end. But to start, we're just playing around with the base colors, adding in some more white, and like I was saying, super fun way to do your swatches, super fun way to kind of figure out how the paint works and how it blends and how it moves and how all of the different colors work. While it's still wet, I'm using that detail brush to add in a little bit of detail with the yellow, but not too much because it is going to kind of blend out as it dries, but just a little bit that will kind of soften up as things dry while still staying there. And then we can contrast it with some more sharp detail after it's dry. So this is me going back in with slightly sharper detail now that things are dry. I'm building up some yellow around these kind of oval shapes that I made and building up the opacity of that yellow, and then adding in some organic lines and textures down in the bottom left corner, just some little kind of like linear dots, and reestablishing some sharpness in some of these lines that I made while everything was still wet as well. When I'm working with abstract, I like to start work with a larger kind of base color that establishes some general shapes and some areas of interest, and then I build in with more detail on top, going from medium size to smallest detail, and I find that helps my brain from getting too overwhelmed. So right now I'm kind of adding in a little bit of medium and smaller detail, just using that white to really add in some brightness, because I do want contrast in a lot of different areas. Another thing I try to focus on and remember is contrast with abstract. So contrast between soft lines and hard lines, contrast between more opaque and more translucent, contrast between colors. All of that good stuff is really going to serve to make your piece as strong as it can possibly be. So in the name of contrast, I'm also adding in some of this bright blue kind of right around the edges of some of these shapes and brush markings I have made, and bringing in some more of that blue to this bottom right hand corner as well, just to balance out how much blue we have in the top left. Going in with some tiny little dots in that blue area that I was just talking about in the top left, just to break it up a little bit, and then kind of mirroring that but with lines over on the right side as well. Going in and adding in a little bit of more detail with this white. Again, just adding in these tiny little areas that I feel like are going to make everything come together and make it pop. And I'm working very much on instinct right now, just kind of what areas I think need something, and just kind of letting my instincts kind of go for me. And that is basically the process of creating an abstract piece. I definitely encourage you all to try doing something like this as a way to get familiar with these supplies and with any new supplies that you get, especially if you want to do a little swatch page without feeling like you're quote unquote wasting the paper or the canvas. This is a great way to do it. And I think mine came out really cute, and I think it's a cute little magnet that I can have on my fridge. So this is how my little abstract magnet came out. And now we're going to move to something a little bit more detailed. And for this, I'm going to be using the 6x6 canvas panels. I'm going to use one of these. I really like working on square canvases. I find it really satisfying. So I decided to work with that. And I recently saw some tutorials on Reels, Instagram Reels, on how to paint flowers like the old masters. So I decided to paint some flowers. So I started with 4 big blobs of this kind of medium blue that I made in a variety of different sizes. That's kind of how you start with a medium colored blob. And then I'm going to mix a little bit of more bright blue to create a darker shadow area and put that right in the center of the blob. Then I'm going to mix up some lighter colors and just by adding some white, and I'm going to start by putting in these center petals, and then I'm going to put in the outside petals just using some sweeping petal motions. And as you can see, the flowers are already starting to come together. And then I use a little bit of a curved flat stroke to put in those center layers of petals. So you've got like 3 layers of petals, the middle, the center, kind of like center area, and then the outside area. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. And then I'm using more white to build up the highlights. So right now we're just kind of establishing where these are going to go and what their overall structure looks like before we go in with the details. So once I have that base structure established, I start to go in with the details. So I'm using the pure blue for my dark because it is a cool color, so it's going to recede the most. I don't have any black or any way to make this darker than the pure blue or like ultramarine blue that it is. So that is going to be the darkest shade. So I'm going to rely on tinting a little bit of yellow into some of the lighter shades to bring those light shades forward visually, because your eye is going to catch warmer colors first, so they'll kind of pull forward, and cooler colors will kind of recede. So when you're working with creating contrast, but you can add darks, like adding in blacks, you can use color theory in that way to make sure that things are doing what you want them to do. So I'm using this tiny little detail brush, and this was perfect for adding in all of the little details. That big flat brush worked perfectly for getting in just the base layers of these petals, but for putting in all of these tiny little details and darkening the creases and adding in these bright little highlights right on the edges of the petals just where the sun would catch, this tiny brush is absolutely perfect for that. So I feel like these two brushes in combination work really well for painting flowers with this technique. So basically, as you can see, you set out that base layer, and then you're going to go in and you're going to use that darker color to really establish where the darks are and get those crisp kind of shading lines where you need them. And then you're going to use your lights to establish your highlights and where the areas of light are going to catch at the edges of the petals. And that's how you're going to build up the overall structure of the flower. But doing that base layer really helps give you this idea of where things are going to go, and it helps sort out the petals, because I feel like flowers can be really confusing at times. There's just so much going on. So just kind of breaking it down into that like very middle cluster, the center kind of cluster evolving around that, and then these final last petals spreading out has really helped me be able to like mentally compartmentalize it. So hopefully it helps you guys too. This tutorial that I saw really helped me. So I'm really excited to be able to bring this technique of drawing flowers over to the Palettefull Packs channel. And once I'm kind of like getting to the point where I'm pretty happy with these two flowers, I felt like we needed a little bit more of this like cast shadow from the petals. I always forget to put in the cast shadows. So I went back in and added in the cast shadows. And then I was kind of feeling like things were looking too monochrome. I knew I wanted the background to be a bright yellow, but I still felt like things were just like feeling really, really monotone. So I decided when I went in for the next flowers, for the two smaller flowers, that I was going to go in with a bright yellow as my highlight. And this was going to turn these flowers into more of an ombre blue to yellow kind of green rose flower, which I thought would look really, really pretty. Actually, I don't know if these are roses or like what kind of flowers these are. They're pretty flowers. But I thought that would give a nice contrast and provide some balance, so it wasn't just like all blue flowers on an all yellow background. I thought it would just make it look a little bit more interesting. When I started putting on this yellow, I was both really scared because of just like how bright it was, but also really impressed because look how well this yellow covers this blue. Like, it is crazy to me how pigmented these paints are. It genuinely astounded me so much throughout this entire painting, was just like how pigmented these paints were. But combining that blue and that yellow, I could get a really nice kind of dull green. So I was able to use that to build up my shadows in these kind of yellow-green flowers, and then still keeping that pure blue for those really, really, really deep shadows. And also just getting this really nice, pretty buttery yellow for the highlights. I wanted to make sure that I didn't use too much pure yellow. I wanted to try to have some tints to it just because I knew that I needed this to stand out against this yellow background. So I had to try to be cognizant of the fact that the background was going to be a similar color, and make sure that I retained contrast in these flowers themselves. But I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think I made like the correct decision to change the colors of these flowers and not have them be blue in the same way that I originally had planned. So I think it's important to remember to be able to change the plan of your project and go with the flow, especially if a different opportunity presents itself or you have a different idea while you're painting. It can be very interesting and often beneficial to explore those ideas and kind of see where they take you, because you can create something that would potentially be more interesting or more effective than your original idea. A lot of times when we get locked into our original ideas, we end up just kind of closing our mind to different opportunities, and then you can't see a way to potential greatness for your piece. And for me, I'm very glad that I decided to switch tracks halfway through the painting and ended up with this. So just adding in those final little details, really adding in a little bit of like texture and strokes to the actual petals themselves, so that they have some of that like texture to them, that linear texture. And once I feel pretty happy with the flowers, it's pretty much just time for me to paint this whole background yellow. I wanted this kind of pop art cut out feel where you paint the subject first and then you kind of go around the edge with the color and it kind of looks cut out or something like that. I think it's a really cool effect, and that's what I wanted to go with for this. So I kept it really simple, just this plain yellow. And that is basically how my piece turned out. I love it so much, and I really loved working with these acrylics. They're really easy to blend and super, super highly pigmented. So I really can't wait to see what everyone creates with these acrylics because they are so beautiful, and I definitely need to go out and get some more colors for myself. So thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that it was helpful and helped teach you some new techniques to learn. I can't wait to see if any of you all paint flowers. I would love to see if you do. So make sure to post on social media and tag Palettefull Packs. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you would like to get your own box, then you can click the link in the description box below to subscribe and get a monthly box of awesome art supplies. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching and have a great rest of your day. Bye.